My name is Christopher Bruce McCann, and this is my official statement. I survived a number of shootings in the police force. I saw a number of dead bodies at Port Arthur. I have managed to live my whole life as normal as possible. It is only the work at icare that has caused me to be in the mental state I am now in.
Adele, 7:30 interview on location.
Why did you decide to speak up?
When I think about it, I was the first person that really discovered what was happening internally at icare and raised my concerns back in 2016. And I think it's time to tell the truth and join the dots.
In 2016, former homicide detective and Valor Award recipient Chris McCann joined icare as the head of compliance investigating fraud and corruption. The $38 billion insurance agency looks after millions of workers if they get sick or injured on the job. Within weeks of joining icare, he started to alert senior executives about what he was witnessing.
I have a habit, and I think the habit, it was formed a long time ago when I first became a detective. I took notes of conversations, and so each time I would raise my concerns with whomever it was, I would record the fact that I had raised my concern, and I also recorded their response.
In some of your diary notes, you talk about seeing a very senior officer at icare and talking about contracts that are going out to mates.
When I raised the fact that there were significant concerns with our procurement practices and that there were allegations being made that contracts were being given to friends and colleagues, the reaction was abusive, angry. He said words to the effect that you're f***ing useless.
Can you give us an example of gifts that weren't being declared?
People were taking trips from organisations, accepting trips, accepting accommodation, accepting all the expenses, all expenses paid trips with companies with whom we had contracted. And when I was looking for the evidence to say, have you ever declared that? Have you declared your gift? Have you declared the benefit? Have you declared the travel? It didn't exist. And the more I dug, the more the company and the senior people dug their heels in and didn't like what I was asking.
Chris McCann was the first whistleblower who spoke up internally about the corruption that was happening within icare. He's now talking publicly to let people know that the seeds were set for the current disaster back in 2016. So was it a lot of largesse?
Oh, absolutely. None of it made sense to me because we were sitting in boardrooms overlooking the harbour when they were cutting off people from getting their workers' compensation payments. There were complaints coming through. Very few people had experience in workers' compensation.
Did you hear conversations about how they were treating injured workers?
There was a real focus at that point on the New South Wales Police. The potential for the outstanding claims on that particular book, it was more than $200 million. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to rebut the evidence. So
what you're saying is reject the claims so they don't have to pay them?
That made me feel very uneasy. I've lost friends to suicide that I worked with, ex-colleagues in the police.
icare runs the biggest workers' compensation system in the country. Set up by the New South Wales government in 2015, it's lost more than $3 billion despite cutting benefits to thousands of injured workers. Sydney barrister Jeffrey Watson has spent his career fighting corruption.
There are three separate problems with icare. First of all, there's the financial hole. There seems to be $3 billion of debt. Second, there's the human cost. Workers, vulnerable workers, seem to be undercompensated or not compensated at all. And that's very destructive, not just of the workers, but of their families. And the third is this element of corruption. I think that it's amongst the worst cases I've seen.
icare is still in damage control. Former CEO John Nagle resigned after failing to properly disclose a contract awarded to his wife. And today, directors fronted a committee in New South Wales Parliament.
Did you discover what the value of the contract was to the former CEO's wife?
It was an amount in excess of $800,000 over that period of time.
So in excess of $800,000 over the 3-year period. Thank you.
We need an inquiry with all of the powers of a Royal Commission immediately to investigate this. icare needs to be dismantled and reformed as soon as possible.
In April 2017, I discovered I had something that was very serious, that had the potential to... I was very sick, and I told people in icare because I felt like it was a safe environment. I felt, despite what I had seen, I thought it was still safe to tell people in human resources about the fact that I was unwell.
His life as a whistleblower got worse when diagnosed with a serious life-threatening illness.
Some months later, after I declared that I was unwell, that I received some threatening and some really vile messages from people saying that your type aren't wanted here, don't touch our things, we don't want to catch what you've got, stop spreading your disease.
How did you feel?
I was crushed, absolutely crushed. And it had a huge impact on me mentally. My job was eventually, at some point without my knowledge, my job was actually advertised. People in the organisation knew about it before I did. It's crushing.
After 18 months of bullying and harassment, Chris reached breaking point.
I was so gutted and felt destroyed. I felt betrayed. And they were, in effect, destroying everything that I'd built up over those years in my career.
Chris left icare in 2018 and signed a non-disclosure agreement, or gag order. He was diagnosed with a major depression and PTSD relating to his time at icare. He hasn't worked since. icare refused to comment on the treatment of Chris McCann. In a statement, it said it investigated matters he raised with independent third parties, and matters that were referred to ICAC did not lead to further investigation. Would you say icare destroyed your life?
Yes, it has.
And what do you hope to get out of talking?
Firstly, it's lifting a weight off my shoulders. This, I'm hoping, is going to help me get the truth out about how that business was run, and that somehow will help me move on with part of my life, if I can.